Hello, everybody. Just 1 second till they can get in here. What's going on, guys?
Hey there.
Good evening to everyone.
Nice to see you, boys. Nice to see you, boys. Long weekend, that's for sure. A lot of stuff that's happened. A lot to get to.
Absolutely, so much stuff, so much stuff. And that's true for the show choir world, but that's also true for just homeroomshowchoir.com too. We've had so much stuff going on. We just published Southern Power Rankings. We had Indianapolis Power Rankings go up in the past week. We've had a couple of director change pieces. We've had just generally some, um, other kind of content going on. But, it's been a big week both in the show choir world and on homeroomshowchoir.com. So we're here to make the most sense of it, I guess.
Yeah, but it's nice to get back into the competition flow. There's so many this week. So, that's how I expect to go forward. So it's going to be like a steady stream of this for a while now, for a while.
It goes fast. It goes fast.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
And for regular listeners, or I guess watchers of the podcast, you may notice that there's a new person in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name's Adam. I am a senior at Plainfield High School on the west side of Indianapolis. I love all things indie show choir and across the country and the board. So excited to be here. Excited to, yeah.
So Nathan, our regular third host, was unavailable this week. So we did our best to replace him as closely as we could. Adam's also from Indianapolis. He's got a little bit shorter hair than Nathan, and his takes might be a little bit different. But we do think that he is just going to be a stellar third host tonight. So with that being said, I am William. I am the editor of Homeroom Show Choir. To my top on the screen, if you're watching this, is Ethan. He is the founder and overall bigwig of Homeroom Show Choir. And one of the things we do here at Homeroom Show Choir is that we do comps of the week. And so our comps of the week last week were Johnston, Millard West, and Pleasant Hill, and they definitely lived up to expectations. So we're going to start off with a look at Johnston. This one, the final results. Urbandale Studio taking home the win, best vocals and best choreography. Waukee Northwest EOS in second place. Prairie the Ambassadors taking home best band and third place. Cedar Rapids Kennedy Happiness Inc. in fourth place. Norris Gold in fifth place. And Urbandale Vitality first place in the prep division and sixth place in the finals. Johnston had a great live feed, so it was fantastic for people who weren't at a competition to watch. Gentlemen, thoughts about what transpired at Johnston?
Yeah, so it's pretty much how we thought would go down. You and I will. Besides, I kind of was surprised that Urbandale's prep group sneak into the finals there. So good job on their part. I thought Norwalk might get into that last spot there. But yeah, overall, pretty much how we thought it would go. Urbandale coming out swinging, EOS second place again. So they're gonna have to come out in their next comp and show out. Which I can't wait to actually see their show. I'm excited to see it because clearly it's good enough to beat good groups like Prairie and step up to Urbandale and Lamar. So, and big shout out to Prairie. I love a big Prairie guy, so love seeing Prairie up there, just like we thought, winning best band and best soloist. Yeah, this comp kind of went how we expected it.
Yeah, no, this was super exciting, and I was tuning in the live stream throughout the day there, and that entire panel of groups up there. Especially the ones that we went through and recognized. There's so many cool things here. We got having a prep group advance to finals where you've got varsity competitors like this. It really says something about that program and the great things happening at Urbandale. I don't know if any which did you guys catch Studio?
I didn't.
I did
I
not.
wish
I
I
was
did.
at a comp all day, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was fun. It was themed. It was very parts of it were very camp and novelty, which I loved. But overall, excellent show choir all day. I love what EOS has done this year. I think it's great art because it makes you feel something. So overall, great stuff happening at Johnston. Yeah.
one thing that I did want to note here, so Iowa, for those of you unfamiliar with it, they do their divisions by school enrollment, and so they'll generally hand out a top 3 in each division, regardless of who makes it on to finals. And so the top 3 for 4A in the daytime actually had Waukee Northwest on top, followed by Urbandale and Prairie. So Urbandale, not only did they come back from second place, they took home both the vocals and the choreography captions from Waukee Northwest. So I don't know if there was like an addition of judges to the panel in finals, or if Urbandale just saw that much improvement in their show. But that was another thing that really stuck out to me, is that when it mattered most, Studio absolutely brought it.
Yeah.
So just the last thing that I wanted to touch on here, Ethan is a big Prairie guy. Every week I learned that Ethan is a fan of another program. Did not know that he was a big Prairie guy
So
before this.
I just have my selected groups, you know. I feel like everyone kind of does in their own way, but like I get really into certain groups that like I just hinge onto, and Prairie happens to be one of them. Ever since we went up against them in 2018 HOA and they snuck into finals, I've always been a Prairie guy.
Such a great
All right.
Prairie team.
Yeah, and just one thing that I wanted to talk about Prairie, Jesse Flaherty actually won a Best Soloist award. He won 2 last year as well, so this may be the beginning of a Best Soloist dynasty over at Prairie. We're going to hop on over to Millard West Music Lives, and I think we might be talking about this one for a little while here. So the final results of this one: Gretna Revolution, Grand Champion, Best Vocals and Best Choreography. Omaha Westside, Amazing Technicolor Show Choir, 2nd place, Best Band. Millard North Infinity, 3rd place. Papillion-La Vista South Titanium, 4th place. Grand Island Northwest, 14 Karat Gold, 5th place. Westside Simply Irresistible, 6th place. Everyone was looking at Westside and Papio South. Don't know if a ton of people were looking at Gretna as a viable group to win this competition, but here Gretna is taking not only the win, but 2 major captions as well. What does this mean for Gretna, and what does this mean for the groups that are under Gretna, and what does this mean for the overall state of Nebraska show choir? I welcome any and all thoughts.
Well, it means anyone can win any comp any day. I mean, the only thing that's the same for every group is the stage. That's all you get. Gretna showed up. Gretna showed up on Saturday. Crazy that Westside got second. Only to get best band. I wonder how their show went. I can't wait to see it. They're always one of those groups that you have to see their show whenever it drops. Gretna, though, kind of coming out of nowhere. But again, though, it's like I feel like they've been winning some comps every now and then, and I've always been like they've slowly been on the rise, I believe. Millard North is getting third. That's huge for them too. I did not
You're a
see them
Millard
getting
North
third
guy,
place.
right?
No, I'm a Millard. There's so many Millards. You got North, South. I think I'm a Millard
You're a
West. So
Millard
this
West
comp,
guy?
yeah,
Okay.
But I love their show last year. But yeah, another shout out to the girls group at Westside making finals in the stacked field. So yeah, there's so much to say, but not enough to say, if that makes any sense. Like again, Gretna's a great show choir. They topped the Westside, amazing powerhouse show choir in Nebraska. Nebraska's on a rise, I believe.
Yeah, I saw Gretna's show last year, just from video clips, and I was a huge fan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the Starry Night theme. But it's I mean, this is a really fantastic group, but I, like most people, going into the showchoir.com predictions and looking through the list of who's going to be there, I really did. I pitted up West Side and Papio South in my mind, and I had it set there, and they came in, and they, not surprised me, but it just, wasn't what I was expecting. But absolutely a welcome surprise. Nebraska show choir is always super dynamic, and I love seeing what's going on out there. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Gretna is a group that drew a lot of attention last year, and I think they did ultimately come out of the woodwork a little bit. Something that I've kind of pinpointed at Gretna is that they did have a director change in advance of 2023. Their longtime director, Patrick River, did go to Gretna East, and he's starting up the program at Gretna East there. And so Gretna did really well under Caitlin Wallace last year, but I think that was still kind of clouded by the notion that before this year, you're going to lose some kids to Gretna East, right? And so I don't know exactly how many they lost, right? You never really do. But ultimately it hasn't affected their success, right? And so Gretna, as of right now, is at the top of the pile, just at Millard West, and we're going to talk about more Nebraska later on. The other thing that I just want to say is that for all of these groups that didn't finish where they wanted to finish, this is not a hit the panic button moment. You know, Westside, this was their competition debut because they pulled out of Onalaska. Papio South, this was also their competition debut because I believe Ralston got canceled. So these are two groups that were going at it for the first time this season, and it's well established that if you want to take down a Titan of show choir, you have to do it at the start of the season. So ultimately, I don't think it's a hit the panic button moment at all. The other thing, Ethan, you briefly touched on Westside's Simply Irresistible. This is now 5 straight years that Simply Irresistible had made finals at one competition or another, which is a pretty remarkable streak for a girls group, right? And I remember in high school, my choreographer told me the one time we went up against Westside, like obviously you want to watch ATSC, but you also want to watch SI because Simply Irresistible is like at the top of the pile for girls groups a lot of places. So just want to shout out Simply Irresistible there. We're going to move on to the Pleasant Hill Battle of the Best. So this one was in Missouri. Just a quick note out on front of this one. They did have some weather in Missouri, so they wound up rescheduling the competition to where there was no finals. And so Missouri does their divisions based on enrollment. In the 5A tier, which was the largest tier, we had Neosho Corlears taking home the win and best vocals, Blue Valley Singers taking home second, best choreography and best band, Smith Cotton New Score Singers in third, and then Green Valley Exclamation in fourth. And then in the 4A division, Harrisonville Music Makers took that one, and in 2A, Carrollton 9th Street Singers. And in the women's division, Neosho, Sugar, and Spice. So Neosho taking 2 division wins. This one, I think, kind of came in as a little bit of a wild card for us going in. I think these results just even make it more confusing. Is there any sense that we can make of these results?
I don't know. Well, once again, it's early in the season, so all this stuff could mean nothing by the end of it. But big shout out to Sam Dolans and Blue Valley. Massive I mean, the captions just are insane looking at him. I believe that he was our director of the year last year, so he's going off of his last year's success. So that's great to see for Blue Valley. Yeah, insane. Just like how it all came out. Neosho, we figured they'd probably take this one. But the rest of it, I had no idea how it was going. Do we know the placements of Battle and Oak Park by any chance?
I mean, they were the bottom 2 groups in the division, so I don't think we know who was 5th and who was 6th, but that is very interesting because ultimately when I wound up writing comps of the week last week, I specifically pegged Battle and Oak Park as groups that I thought would battle it out under Neosho, Blue Valley, and Platte County, who wound up withdrawing because of the weather. Platte County, unfortunately, had to withdraw all 3 of their groups, including their men's group, which was going to make their debut. So that was tough. But yeah, Smith Cotton and Green Valley really just popped off. And Smith Cotton is a group that has gone through a couple of director changes in the past few years. Actually, one of their old directors wound up in Wisconsin for a little bit last year, up by me in a little crazy connection. And then Green Valley had not placed since 2017 at Quincy. So that is crazy that Green Valley has gone 8 years without placing. And their first placing comes over groups like Oak Park and Battle. So like you said, Ethan, it's very early on in the season, but you know, Southwest Missouri, I think a lot of people think about as being tight, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on. But Northwest Missouri, that Kansas City kind of area, is also going to be a super tight area this year as well. I think Green Valley and Smith Cotton placing over groups that have traditionally been kind of pseudo powerhouses shows that you can't count anybody out this year. Adam, any comments, or is this like a little bit too far west for you?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the captions now. One of the things that was interesting to me was the best vocal caption being awarded to Neosho. And again, this isn't always the case, but I did think it was interesting to see Blue Valley awarded with the best ballad caption. And you know, it's a comp to comp basis where they have the captions based off of different parts of the show for openers, closers. But I did think it was interesting that they received the ballad caption and not the vocal one. So it's again not an always case thing, but usually that's a good indicator of what a group's vocals look like when they're really exposed and kind of kind of brought down to the bare bones essence of them. But no, it's fantastic, and I'm glad to see groups like Grain Valley on the rise and making their name known in Missouri.
Yeah. So I think, Ethan, unless you got any other thoughts, that pretty much wraps up what we were going to talk about with Pleasant Hill. So we're going to move on to our fourth comp of the week, and that was the UNL Midwest Cup. And this one was our wildcard competition of the week, so you, the people, voted on it. UNL, in that same vein, will have a successor this week in a wildcard comp of the week. So look for that poll both on our Instagram and on our X pages tomorrow. Those two vote totals will be combined for the wildcard comp of the week this week. The final results here: Lincoln Southwest Resonance taking home Best Vocals, Best Band in first place. Wheaton Warrenville South, the Classics, Best Choreography in second place. Lincoln East Express third place. Wheaton Warrenville South Esprit fourth place. Millard South on Stage in fifth place. Lincoln East Elegance in sixth place. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there may be a group at the top that not a lot of people thought would be there in what is a familiar storyline this week.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get too excited about it because, again, it's early in the season, but two early wins for Lincoln Southwest, especially over Wheaton Warrenville South, who many thought would take this one. But if you're going to do it, you got to take that vocal caption, and they did it. And they did it along with Best Band. It's tough to take choreography from Wheaton, so if you can make your vocal strong enough to just get you over the edge, that's big time. Yeah, but if Lincoln Southwest is able to do this, I'm very excited to see what they do in their next competition. I don't know where it is. I don't know who they're going up against, but I know they went up against, at their first comp, I believe it was Millard North, who was good competition. But seeing them go beat the Classics is massive. And I'm not even surprised that Esprit for Wheaton Warrenville South was that high. They are one of the premier girls groups in the nation. I know you mentioned earlier, Will, when you went up against Westside and your director was like, you must go see Simply Irresistible from Westside. The same thing is with Wheaton Warrenville Esprit every time. Must watch shows. Yeah, it's not time to hit the panic button like we always say. I feel like Wheaton always comes out top two in their first two competitions. And by the end of it, knowing Wheaton, they'll probably go on a run at some point with GCs. But again, I can't wait to see what Lincoln Southwest came up with this show.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and it's totally not a knock on Wheaton's groups at all because they're fantastic, they're well established, and classic shows are some of my favorites every year. But I am really excited to see what Lincoln Southwest continues to do this season. I know earlier, I don't know who it was in our staff picks predictions that predicted that no group would go undefeated this year. But
That
I
was
did.
me.
Yeah, that was you. Well, I'm looking ahead here, and they do down the road about I think it's 2 or 3 weeks from today at Norris. They do face Ankeny Centennial and Papio South, as well as Millard West and Elkhorn South the week prior. So I'm really interested to see those groups battle it out. They've really, even though it's again only the first 2 weeks of the season, I think our eyes are definitely kind of focused on Lincoln Southwest right now and what's going to happen out there. So
Yeah, and I am the opinion guy on this podcast, as we have established over the past couple weeks. So I'm going to come in here with an opinion, and I believe that at this moment in time, Lincoln Southwest is the best show choir in the state of Nebraska. We had just absolute chaos happen at Millard West. We had some more chaos happen at Burke. We're going to talk about that, I believe, in a little bit. Not as much chaos happening at Hastings, but Rez with this big, I think we can all call it an upset win over the Classics here. Their Chicken Little themed show. I mean, hey, if it's what makes the scores work, it's what makes the scores work. Ethan, you were talking about where Lincoln Southwest is immediately after this. Lincoln Southwest is at Lincoln East this week. They will face Millard West, who was hosting through all this craziness this weekend. They will face Elkhorn South. They will face Norris, who we talked about earlier. They will also face Pius X, who won 1.5 grand championships last year, along with Sioux City East from out of state. So, again, the road is not easy for Lincoln Southwest. Perhaps they are the group that goes undefeated. The lineup for Norris just dropped like yesterday or today, like Adam was mentioning.
Yeah.
monster lineup: Ankeny, Centennial, Papio South, Lincoln Southwest, all of the groups. But for right now, I'm going to let Lincoln Southwest enjoy their moment in the spotlight. A couple other things that I wanted to touch on here, especially the girls groups. Wheaton Warrenville South Esprit wound up clearing Millard South. Didn't expect that to happen, but good on Esprit for doing that. And then Lincoln East Elegance has now made finals at Midwest Cup each of the past 3 years after the pandemic. So a nice little streak going for Elegance. And then also in the small mixed division, Platteview Platinum had their first division win since 2015, I believe. So a nice little shout out to Platteview there. They picked up a new choreographer this year, so clearly it must be working. Any other thoughts on UNL? Otherwise, we're going to move on to our miscellaneous headlines section. All right, so we're going to start off going back to Missouri, and the Mount Vernon Midwinter Classic was the only other competition in Missouri this past weekend. Webb City Singers pulled out a no-caption win over Joplin Sound Dimension, who took both the vocals and the choreo captions. You know, every year it seems like Webb City, Carthage, Neosho, Joplin, they are just all kind of in a bunch down there in Southwest Missouri, and it's just kind of a spin of the wheel depending on which group is going to win this week. So, thoughts on anything, or is it just another example of a crazy no-caption win?
I just think it's another a crazy no caption win. But I feel like this year is like one of the first years I can confidently say we can find out who maybe the best show choir for a certain season in Missouri will be. Because I know that Troy will be going up against majority of these groups 2 weeks from now, I believe. So besides the Neo show, of course, but they all are kind of going up against each other or this season, and it's exciting to see.
Well, I mean, this wasn't the only caption split or place where it looked like it was splatter painted all over, but the thing that was really interesting about this for me was that it wasn't just that the captions were spread. They were both in the first runner-up group, which was in Joplin. And I'm interested, I don't know, maybe that was the way that they scored it, or that definitely that had to have been something interesting and peculiar.
Right. I don't think any of us had the score sheets, but whether they're doing sum of ranks in finals or ordinal consensus in finals or just anything other than raw points, I think you definitely open up that possibility. Ethan, I hate to say this, but I set you up because I asked you if this was just a crazy no caption split. And the answer is no. The answer is the crazy no caption split happened at Omaha Burke this past weekend, where Papillion-La Vista Free Spirit took home a no caption win over Sioux Falls, Washington in second with the band caption, Elkhorn North in third with no captions, Rock Bridge in fourth with the vocals caption, and Lewis Central in fifth with the choreography caption. So we've all seen, some interesting caption splits before. I think this is one of the more interesting in recent memory. Involves a lot of big groups. We were just talking about Papillion-La Vista a couple weeks ago and their director change. Sioux Falls, Washington has kind of been on the bottom end of Sioux Falls these past couple years. Perhaps this is a comeback for them. Rock Bridge has kind of dissolved into that central Missouri scene, not really an Eastern or Western group. Perhaps they're back on the rise again. Lewis Central, I mean, I can't tell you the last time they've taken a caption at a big competition, right? They've been to a couple smaller ones and swept, but taking home a choreo caption against Papio and Elkhorn North in Sioux Falls, Washington, really does mean a lot. So thoughts about not just the no caption win, but the captions went to the fourth and fifth place groups.
Adam, I'll let you go first on this one. You seem more adamant about it than I am.
Yeah, not upset. I'm sure it just means that things were really close, and I would have loved to be there in person to see that and see how close it would have been for the captions to be awarded in fourth and fifth place. So, again, consensus scoring, whatever it may have been, I think it had to have been a very, very tight competition for this to take place. So that's cool. That's cool to see. I think you guys have mentioned this already, but at least from my takeaway, this feels like the first year since the pandemic that feels more like a 2020 show choir year, where it feels very where groups feel very, very close. It doesn't feel as separated as it may have felt in years prior. Thoughts on that? Did that make sense?
No, I,
You guys kind of get what I'm
I
saying?
think you're right, Adam. I think groups are kind of getting. I think groups are back on the rise since COVID. I think they're getting back to the place that they were competitively, and in the way that they make this sort of art. But looking at the comp and like when you see, oh, okay, Free Spirit won, you click on it, you see, all right, where the captions are at. Best performer. Shout out Connor though, really carrying the group there. No, I'm kidding, but then you just go down the line and then you're like,
And they like him so
best
much they
band.
put him in first.
Yeah, like man, that guy kills it. Um, and then they're like Elkhorn North. Okay, where are the captions at? Shout out to Rockbridge because the only thing I know about Rockbridge from previous years, besides them being in Missouri, is that their comp always gets canceled with snow. So it's awesome to see them win this comp or win this vocals caption. And then Lewis Central being down there, like you said, winning a caption at a bigger competition. It's just a whole bunch of mamble jamble that I don't really want to like get into because of course it was close and that you just look at it and you're like, that's something I don't want to touch, but it's cool to look at.
Yeah, friend of the show Bradley Davis posted, I think on Sunday or Monday, that the mathematician people need to find a way to make this not possible. And as much as I love Bradley, I'm going to disagree with him because the more chaotic the results are, the more I enjoy talking about them on the podcast. So, like Ethan said, it's still January, it's still early in the season. I'm sure there'll be more craziness to talk about later on in the season. We do have a comment saying, even though I have no connection to Midwest Show Choir, this is the best podcast about Midwest Show Choir. Perhaps for the whole region. I know there are some podcasts that focus specifically on certain states, but we appreciate it nonetheless. Just rounding out our miscellaneous segment, we do have a couple groups picking up big wins. Indianola side one grabbed their first career win at West Branch. They took both major captions over Marion New Creation. One interesting thing about that is that Pella Acapella qualified for finals, but left early. I don't know if Iowa was having weather or if Pella had some other extenuating circumstance. But either way, Indianola picking up win number one. Miles Finn is, I think, one of the big young rising directors of the very crowded Iowa show choir scene. So shout out to Indianola, who we've talked about in prior weeks. And then also Bloomington Kennedy, who went on a big rip last year. You know, they kind of stumbled coming out of the pandemic and even into the pandemic a little bit. And they just exploded last year with their Moulin Rouge show. And Bloomington Kennedy just went out and swept on Alaska this past weekend. And on Alaska is no slouch either. I'll take that back. Not swept, not the band. But best vocals, best choreography, a couple best soloist awards, best dress band award. You know, they keep racking up. But Bloomington Kennedy, I think, is playing for keeps again this week. Any thoughts on Indianola or Bloomington Kennedy?
No, just big shout out to Indianola. I mean, a win's a win. You can't look at who was supposed to be there. So big win by side one.
I mean, I've seen their director on TikTok. That's that's what I know from him. But BK has been doing some really cool stuff. I know I saw them as a breakout group all over the place last year. So Minnesota groups as well. I'm really really interested. You know, I love seeing when groups are spread out and traveling to compete, but I also do love seeing them come back home and try to defend their territory. So I think we'll see a little more of that from them this year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. This is great. It is 7:30 or 6:30 or 4:30 or whatever, but we are right on time for our show sheet. And
First time
so,
ever.
yeah, first time
Ever.
ever we've stayed on time for the show sheet, which is hilarious. Anyways, we're going to head into some of our own experiences. You know, there have been some storylines that you may have noticed that we have very carefully avoided, and that's because each of the three of us were at competitions this past Saturday. And we're going to talk about what we saw a little bit and just kind of give a few minutes for each of our thoughts. So, Ethan, why don't you start off and share your experiences?
Yeah, so I was at this past weekend's Mountainside Midwest Invitational. Had a great time like always. Not enough, or they didn't have as much groups as past years, but they had to move it back a week earlier in, I believe, November, I believe. So uh, I give them a little break on that on the groups. I believe the comp might be moving back to March next year, which will be big for a show choir, I believe. But anyway, so Troy ended up winning. Wasn't a clean sweep, but they got best vocals and best choreo as well as best soloist. Glenwood, Titan Fever, Best Band Crew. And then Peoria Soundwave rounds out the mixed division with Best Soloist. Tier 2 was Troy Soundwave with Best Vocals. And then coming from Will's homeland, Plymouth, getting Best Choreo, which was nice to see. Them getting first runner-up in Tier 2. And then Herschel rounded out. Just some quick show notes that I wrote down. Sorry, I'm looking at my computer for my notes, but just listen. Troy did what they always do, I believe. They come out and they do a show about love, and they kill it. It's always about love with Troy, but I love that they love so much in their show, if that makes any sense. They always kill it. Troy does so well at these early competitions. It's probably because they come out the most ready. Shout out to the performers and staff for getting them ahead of the curve, because it's crazy how well they do to start the season. Glenwood, who ended up in second place, they surprised me. I thought with the change with choreographer from Heath Emar to Ben Eklund that there might be a style switch up. You cannot tell at all. It's almost like Ben Eklund said, "You're Glenwood's style. I'm going to do Glenwood choreography in some way, some form." Really cool show, but there was one change. They have a backdrop for the first time and maybe ever. They still have 4x4 risers, but they do have a backdrop. And when it came out, I was like, "Whoa!" What? This isn't. I was like, change is coming. They killed it. I think this might be their best, my favorite or most entertaining show since maybe, what did I write down? 2020 in terms of entertainment value. So I felt like the past couple years they were kind of a little lower, but I feel like the program's going back up, especially with the prep group that they added, and middle school, who they weren't able to join this competition, but will be exciting to see later on. And then Peoria's the school solos. They always will be, always will be. They had a drop in numbers, but you can't tell at all. They come out and they sang. Yeah, and then Mount Zion, the host group, very cool. I thought it was a very cool show. It's a very different show. It's one of those shows that you just want to jump to March to see how it ends, to see the full scope of it. Their backdrop is really cool, it's completely different from any backdrop I've seen lately. It feels really realistic in that sort of sense. But yeah, so much potential that show, so much fun. I love Dwight Jordan. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, and I heard from a little bird, a little in-source or sources that best choreo was only won by 3 points, so it was very tight. So Glenwood and Ben Eklund, big shout out. But of course, you gotta give Troy the props for the early competition win.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been seeing pictures of swings on Instagram, and it looks so cool.
Yeah.
So I really can't wait till I can see that show.
Yeah, I just have a couple quick shout outs here. Sorry, I'm stepping on Ethan's toes.
No, you're fine.
But I think I saw Bobby Picker in the viewers list earlier. He's one of Troy's choreographers. So Bobby Picker, if you're still watching, congratulations on the Best Choreography Award. Then also I have to give a shout out to Plymouth. Their director and choreographer, who's the same person, very dear to me. I've known him for a long time. So shout out Carter Kazaniak as his first Best Choreography Award at the helm of Plymouth. So yeah, we're definitely all proud up here in Wisconsin. So Adam, you were at Anderson, right?
Awesome, yeah. I will say, the competition. I made my drive up through the snow and the ice and all. But it definitely felt a little. Well, never mind. It felt a little strange up there. I know there was definitely some commentary about the way that some of the awards went out, and mainly in prelims. You had South Dearborn take the first place spot in prelims in the small mixed division, but grab neither of the captions, which is something that feels like deja vu at this point in the tonight. But no, Chesterton came out, swept both divisions. Love Chesterton. They've got from someone from Indiana. They've got a great bunch of kids. They've got an excellent program as well. Super fun show. And then of course all the other programs doing great things up there. I always love to see South Dearborn show up and show out, because they bring such a small number of kids. I believe it was 26 this year, and they still fill the room with sound. So absolutely good to see. Thoughts from you guys? Or
Yeah, it's just weird to see women's finals starting on the third weekend of January, right? Usually you
yeah.
think of women's finals being like a February and March kind of thing. So it's interesting to see some women's groups get their time in the spotlight. But other than that, yeah, Chesterton was similar to Bloomington Kennedy, a real breakout group last year. And, you would know this better than I do. I don't know if they faced the absolute toughest competition this past weekend, right? I don't think they were tested in a real major way, but it's still interesting to see Chesterton come out on top. And then also Churubusco was in the large
Mhm.
mixed division, which I thought they were generally a small mixed
Generally
group in the
small.
past, so don't know
Yeah.
if something
Well,
changed
I
there.
also this was and in the state of Indiana we have different, it's not a uniform judging panel, but the way that we organize the size depends on if it's an Indiana State School Music Association certified competition, which I could talk about that all day. It gets a little muddy. But you did remind me of something I wanted to mention, which was that Noblesville, who, we'll see them back this next weekend at Ball State, and we saw them just the other weekend at Beaver Creek. But Sensation is actually not their varsity women's group, it is their prep group. And their prep group, I was very interested to see, and they did move down in finals, but they actually took best choreography from Columbus North and Chesterton's Univoice group, which is super cool to see. Again, I think there's always an element of a little bit of pride when you see a prep group show up and show out like they did, or like Urbandale did at Johnston this past weekend. So absolutely cool.
Yeah, well, I was at the New London Singstock Festival this past weekend, Friday night for the middle schools. The middle schools are fun or whatever, but that's a little bit outside the scope of what we're talking about. Saturday, I think I saw 18 high school choirs compete, so it was an overall great day. And the results of this one, Toma Limited Edition took home the win with a soloist caption and the Spirit Award. And De Pere Jam Session was in second place with the choreography in the band, and Preble Center Stage was in third place with the vocals. Personally, it's just one of those weird caption splits. I actually had a feeling that it would be a weird caption split. I actually had Sauk Prairie on top with no captions, and then De Pere in second and Toma in third. Sauk Prairie wound up fourth, so I guess I just liked Sauk a lot more than the panel did. So big shout out to Toma. They won their first competition ever last year, and they've already done it again this year. So Toma doing great things. De Pere was third at this comp a year ago. They moved up to second, and Preble is not a group that really gets outside of their local area a ton. And so I think picking up a caption is huge for them. It is 6:40, and I'm going to cut this segment while we're still on time. So we are going to go to the preview section of today's podcast. Our three main comps of the week this week are Bloomington Kennedy, Omaha Westside, and Tallasee. I think you say it Tallasee. If there's anybody from Alabama or Mississippi in the chat, tell us how to say the word for the place that the competition is at this weekend. But we're going to start with Bloomington Kennedy Gold. There's no Iowa this week, so sorry to all the Iowans watching. We will get back to it at some point, but we've talked about Iowa pretty substantially for every week, so we decided it was time to give other states a little bit of a shout. So Bloomington Kennedy is the first competition that goes on in the state of Minnesota for the competition season. The mixed groups for this competition, we've got Waconia Power Company, Hastings Riverside Company, Ankeny Perpetual Motion from Iowa, Papillion-La Vista Free Spirit from Nebraska, Bloomington Jefferson Connection, and Fort Atkinson South High Street Singers from Wisconsin. Lots of different groups here from lots of different places. Thoughts and opinions on how this one is going to shake?
So this is a toughie. This is a toughie. You look at it and you see Waconia, and they've won, I believe, two competitions. I feel like they're going to three competitions. I think one got canceled, so I think they're 2 for 2. And then you have Free Spirit, who just won that crazy win. So it's weird to look at. And then of course Hastings just sitting there, just looking at you when you're making your predictions. You're always like, man, you got to put Hastings in that top two. But I mean, if Waconia is for real, if they can grab this one, Waconia might be one of the top groups in the nation this year, undoubtedly. So especially this early on. And that's a quick sneak peek is when we might be dropping our rankings next week, which please please tune into that, which is huge. Will and I have been trying to spearhead a whole new scoring system and everything. So shout out to Will for helping me on that.
Yeah. Well, I was in advanced math in middle school, so I do have huge credentials to design the ranking system. So, yeah, Adam, any thoughts from you?
Wow. I love Waconia. Don't get me wrong, but I am a Hastings believer. Okay, this is their week. This is gonna be good. I think Hastings wins both captions. So that's my take on that. How about you, Will?
Man, I'm going to talk about a group that neither one of you uttered a word about between the two of you. And I think that's a crime, and that is Ankeny Visual Adrenaline. I was lucky enough to get a very, very small sneak peek of Ankeny's show before the competition season started. Muscatine got canceled, so they're coming in fresh. So is Hastings because Sioux Falls Jefferson got canceled. And I am going to say that Ankeny Visual Adrenaline will win both captions.
Ooh.
I
Well, we
think
all
that this
have
Yeah,
is
something different. That's
watch it.
good.
Yeah, hey, watch them win both captions and get third. It's been a theme. It's been a theme.
hey, that's all right. My only prediction is that they win both captions. Okay,
You're right.
you would assume that comes with first place. You never really know. I think this is the year that Ankeny gets back to the Lester Ray Miller the third glory days. Right? People, younger show choir people, do not understand that there was a time in history when there was no Ankeny Centennial and there was just Ankeny. And Ankeny Visual Adrenaline lit the world on fire under Lester Ray Miller the third. And Nick Oswald has been plugging along in that program for a number of years now. I think this is the year that Ankeny gets back to where they were under Lester, and they take down Waconia in the process. They take down Hastings in the process. They take down Papio in the process, right? Everybody's going to talk about Hastings and Waconia in the lead up. That's fine. I'm going to talk about Ankeny.
Wow. No, I like
No, that's
that. That
awesome.
sounds fun.
The only
I would love to be proven wrong. Absolutely.
the only thing I love about this competition is that there's 6 top mixed choirs.
Yeah.
If there was 7, oh, one group
So many.
wouldn't make it.
I'm gonna stop you right there, and I'm gonna say that both Papio Heart and Soul and Ankeny Perpetual Motion has an outside shot of cracking finals, right? Like all of these groups are like consistent finals groups in the main mixed division, but you just never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Papio Heart and Soul coming off a solid 6th place finish at Burke, and Ankeny Perpetual Motion has been in finals in the past, so maybe this isn't the comp to make it happen, but just saying there's an outside shot of another crazy thing happening. And
Yeah.
that's why
I'm down.
Bloomington Kennedy is one of our comps of the week this week, just because it is so exciting.
Yeah, the harder it is for the panel, the more fun it is to watch for us. So I'm all in favor of that.
There's a reason why none of us are judges.
Yeah.
We're just going to say that.
Yeah.
Our next one is the Omaha Westside Competition of Excellence. You know, we talked about how chaotic was in Nebraska last weekend, and we're going right back to it this weekend. In the mixed division here, we've got Johnston Innovation, Mitchell Friendicu, Papillion-La Vista South Titanium, Omaha South The Ambassadors, Grand Island Ultimate Image, St. Thomas Aquinas Swinging Saints, and Ralston, Rush, I think is their mixed.
Yes.
I think I got their mixed and women's mixed up. But anyways, again, lots of groups, lots of different states. I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 states covered here. Thoughts and opinions?
Wow.
So, real question. You said Friendy Coup. Is the P silent?
Yes.
I think so,
Yeah.
right? Because it's French.
Friendicu, yep.
I've always been saying Coup.
Oh,
no.
No.
It's always been Mitchell Friendicu, man.
You took Spanish class in high school, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can tell you didn't take
Yep.
French.
Adam,
why don't you tell everyone what group you're in?
Oh my goodness. So ours, full disclosure, I take Spanish, not French, but my group name in Plainfield is Bells and Bows, which is an incorrect pronunciation, but the name is French. So we just stuck with it being wrong. But we've had some announcers say it correctly. So I love to hear a good belle et beau whenever it's there.
hey, coming from Mount Zion, it was always Mount Zion too. So don't worry. Don't have to be French to not know. Yeah, but I'm just gonna go down the list. I'm gonna make a quick prediction on this one. I'm gonna go Johnson Innovation. Mitchell. Mitchell is interesting because it is her first comp. I'm not gonna Mitchell friend of coup. Mitchell friend of coup. But honestly, to start off, I'm gonna go Titanium in the 2 spot. So I'm gonna go Johnson Titanium, and then I'll go Mitchell. I think Grand Island stays in the 4 spot, even though they're coming off a win. That 5th place finish at the comp beforehand is just kind of keeping me a little uneasy about putting them higher. Um, then Omaha South is a very solid group, but I actually see Johnson Synergy taking a spot over them. I can see them taking the 5th spot, but I think it's either going to be a sweep or there's a caption in 3rd place. I'm telling you. So I would go almost. I'm just going to go sweep. I'll keep it simple, sweet and simple. Sweep for Johnson, Papillion in 2nd, Friend of Coop in 3rd, and then I'll take Grand Island in 4th. Keep Omaha South in 5th, Synergy 6th. Johnson's prep group.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of similarities between the the creative staff at Johnston and Mitchell, but I love seeing Mitchell shows because they're always so elaborately themed, and there's usually an aspect of storytelling to them as well that makes them super super fun to watch. I don't know if any of you guys saw last year's show, but it was super creative, and so I won't be difficult here. I'll make my prediction safe. We'll call it Johnston vocals, visuals. We got Mitchell, first runner-up, Papio South, and then I'm going to actually give the edge to Grand Island over Omaha South, and I think we're going to see a Univoice group take that last spot or 2. I don't know if I counted that out right.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to have to agree with you guys here. I saw Johnston at UNL last year,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I mean, their show was phenomenal. It was great, and I heard from a little birdie that Johnston is going to be better this year than they were last year. So I don't think, with that in mind, Johnston's first comp, which was Gretna, was rescheduled, and they were unable to make the rescheduled date. So ultimately, this will be Johnston's debut. This will also be Mitchell's debut, right? But this is 2 weeks earlier than Mitchell debuted last year. So that is something to keep in mind, right? And obviously you have turnover in your group every year and stuff, and it may not even matter, but just a little something to keep in mind here as well. Papio South, right? We told everybody, don't hit the panic button after that 4th place finish. Yeah. Omaha South, I believe it is their 2nd competition of the year. I'm not entirely sure of that. Grand Island coming off of a sweep at Hastings as well. Just so many storylines here. I will also take Johnston with vocals and choreo at the top. I'll take Mitchell at the 2 with band, Papio South at the 3. I'll actually give Omaha South the 4, Grand Island at the 5. I know they swept Hastings. Wasn't really anybody else there to really give them a tough run for the money. And as for the 6th spot, I mean, I don't know. The hands-on favorite is got to be Johnston Synergy, right?
Yeah.
I think that Papio South Titan Express may give Synergy
Also
a run for the money.
really good Univoice group, yeah.
However, I would say St. Thomas Aquinas, maybe. I know they didn't place at Blue Valley 2 weeks ago. I would say they would maybe be my pick for the 6th. But I mean, ultimately, where the 6th goes, I think, is anybody's guess. And one other thing that I did want to talk about, we didn't mention the women's division at all, but this does feature 2 of the 3 all-women's schools in Omaha that do show choir. So you have Marion, Mercy, and Duchess that all have women's groups in Omaha, because I guess 3 all-girls high schools in Omaha do show choir. This one does feature Marion and Mercy, 2 of the 3. So it'll be interesting in the battle of all-girls academies to see who comes out on top there. And then you throw in Johnston's girls and Papio's girls and Omaha South's girls and Grand Island's girls and St. Thomas. And I think every single varsity group is bringing a girls group.
For sure.
Yeah, besides Mitchell's. So, another really wild thing there. And so we're going to go to the Tallasee Capital City Classic. And we got no comments. So we're going to assume that Tallasee is not a French word and that I'm saying it the right way.
Googled it here. I Googled it here, and you can take this how you will. Hold on. You can take this how you will. I don't actually know how but that appears to be the pronunciation for it.
Tallasee?
Also, I had to specify it was not Tallahassee, that it is regularly mistaken, which I can see, as this competition is not in Florida, but
Yeah.
in Alabama. So
Yeah. So I don't know, Tallasee. We'll go with Tallasee now because that's what it looked like to me. So the large mixed division, we've got Homewood the Network, Auburn Varsity Singers, Enterprise Encores, and Opelika Ovations. And then from there, you split into both group size and school size. So in the middle mixed large school division, you've got Tift County A Street Singing Company, Vestavia Hill Singers, Hoover Paradigm, and Lakeside Soundsation. In middle mixed small school, you've got Jasper Phoenix and Homewood Continuum. And then you've got a number of small mixed groups as well. You've got Oxford Sound, commonly regarded as the best small mixed group in the South. You've also got Appling County, who's done some stuff before, Chelsea, who had a nice run a couple of years ago. And then you've got a loaded women's division, Enterprise Esprit, Homewood Nexus, Auburn Elan, Tift Ladies Choice, Opelika Impressions. And then you've also got a two-choir bass division. You've got Auburn Men at Work and Tift County Tiftoster Tone. So this is the first foray into the South. You've got Tallahassee, I don't know, whatever. I'm just going to call it Tallahassee. And then you've also got South Jones and Jackson Prep in Mississippi. But this is our comp of the week, mostly featuring Alabama groups, a couple of Georgia groups sprinkled in here or there. Thoughts on how Alabama's going to bust out of the gates here?
First off, just wow. Just the amount of groups that go, I'm just going to say go here, are insane. Like the tier one, that's an insane tier one. So shout out for I don't know. I'll just stop it. But yeah, another thing that caught my eye, like you mentioned, was the tier two groups, or not the tier two, the treble groups. I feel like that needs a prediction on its own because to start off a year, it's always hard to always beat groups of this caliber this early within your season. If this was down the line, I feel like I could give groups a little more edge, a little more wiggle room. But there is no wiggle room when you start the season. You always have to start off a little hot. Um, I'm just going to do a prediction of my top four because I feel like after that, it's just a mess because all these groups are insanely talented and they're known for grabbing low spots or always grabbing a final spot. And I believe one of these tier two, I would say tier two, the treble groups. So some of these women's groups can also grab a final
There
spot.
are no
It's not unheard
finals
of.
here.
Oh, there's no
finals.
That makes a lot of sense. Why there's so many groups? Apologies. So I'm just going to give you I'll just go mixed division tier one predictions. Give me Auburn over Homewood, not in a sweep. It's crazy. I know. They had an insane year last year. Calm. Will, don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look, Will.
Well, last year was the first year that Homewood actually took home the win from this comp. I mean, it had been Auburn, and I mean this year obviously we don't see that same lineup, but I do think it'll be interesting to see Homewood take this on as the new reigning champ.
Yeah.
So that'll be really cool. It's a special.
Yeah,
Guys, hold up. I just got a notification that Bradley Davis just joined. So we're going to get fact checked on everything now.
Shoot, I don't know as much as I should know, but Bradley, don't listen to this, okay? I'm going to go Auburn in the one hole, Homewood, and then we're talking Southern. Enterprise Opelika, man, that's tough. I saw Enterprise one time and I thought they were really good. So I've always been hearing rumblings of ovations. So I think I'm gonna go Enterprise and then Ovations. So that's gonna be my tier one at Tallasee, whatever.
Adam, you look like you're very intently researching something. What you got?
Oh well, I'm looking at it here because I am confident. Last year, I think as of last year, the trend is set. I have Homewood first, both captions. Auburn, Enterprise. We got Ovations right in after that. And I also am. I don't know how finals are structured. Full disclosure. But I am interested. Do they just pull from? There aren't finals at this competition. Sorry, but I am interested in the other divisions and how those will come out. So I'd give the edge to Tift, Homewood, Continuum, and then Oxford. At least as I'm like scrolling down through here and looking at that.
So, yeah, Ethan's just lucky that Dobbs Durkin isn't in here, because if Homewood alum Dobbs Durkin was in here, Dobbs Durkin co-hosted the Warm Up Room podcast. Go listen to him right after
Yeah,
this one.
it's a great
If
podcast.
Dobbs
I love
was in
tuning
here,
in.
bro, you'd be getting torn to shreds right now. But I will give Ethan a little bit of a break. Homewood's longtime director Scott Thorne retired at the end of last year, so I guess you could theoretically say, well, you don't exactly know about Homewood, so I could see where you'd put him second. Honestly, their old assistant director, Byron Mosquera, is moving up to be the head director, so I don't think there will be much of a change at Homewood at all. I have Homewood pretty comfortably in the 1 here. Auburn, always a dangerous group, at the 2. Enterprise, I think they were better under Cameron Johnson-Weiler, right? She was their director for a long time, probably when you saw him, Ethan. I think they've gone through a couple of director changes. After that, I think Jamie Baker's there now. I think Martez Tidwell, one of their previous directors, is at Spain Park now, I want to say. And so Enterprise has gone through a little bit. I'm surprised to see Opelika in large mixed. I thought they were more of a middle mixed group. Maybe they're always a large mixed group. I would expect Opelika to bring up the rear here. In terms of tier 2, this was the division that had a crazy tie for first, and then ties for vocals and ties for choreo. Very weird to see Tift down in middle mixed. I don't know if that's going to be a season-long change or if that's just here. Scott Rains had, I thought, pretty solidly had Tift as a large mixed group. So, I guess you would give the edge to Tift in tier 2 in middle mixed. I think Vestavia Hills can definitely come to play as well. Vestavia's been very present, I think, the past couple of years in this. They were 3rd place in middle mix at Tallasee last year. They just missed out on the vocals and choreography caption ties. Lakeside is the big wild card in middle mixed, coming over from Georgia. Don't want to discount Hoover as well. Yeah, just lots of stuff going on. Okay, Homewood is the Mongolian horde this year, and the Great Wall hasn't been built. You heard it here first.
I will say this. It's just my one last thing. If Auburn wins, it's not a sweep. There's a caption going to Homewood some way, somehow. But if Homewood wins, it's a sweep. That's the only thing I can say. I firmly say.
I see you backtracking, and
No, I'm not
I am glad that
I'm
you.
not backpedaling.
Well, you do have a different group of choreographers this year. I mean, but still a really, really, really excellent creative team. So we have April James, Randy Sage, and Kelly Goodell this
Doesn't
year.
get
So
better than that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like, that looks like a really fantastic creative team, as they had a fantastic visual team last year too. But I mean, after last year's success, I'd be surprised to see it be any different.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish. I'm stating it. You'll see my name on showcry.com. Prediction wins. Auburn's taking the win. I'm giving Auburn.
I'm following last year's trend. I'm with that.
Oh, I love that.
Fair enough. I mean, we're just going to have to see how it plays out, and we're going to have 7 divisions worth of results to talk about next week. It's been an hour, so it's just about time for us to go. Like I said at the top of the show, please head over to homeroomshowchoir.com. We're going to have at least one more piece dropping just tonight. So get over there right after you finish watching this. And we're going to have some stuff coming up throughout the week as well. Thank you so much, Adam, for stepping in to co-host. We really do appreciate it. Ethan, thank you for being the guy who has a new favorite group every week and the occasionally zany takes. And thanks to all of you for watching, especially if you stuck it out for over half the show. We know it's a long time, and we do appreciate it. If you want to listen back to it, this is also available on Spotify and YouTube right after the show. So that is the place to go. Thank you again to everybody. And this has been episode 4 of Show Choir Nation. We will see you all next week.